Chris Matthews continues to join us from Las Vegas, and for the moment now, we're joined again by MSNBC political analyst Pat Buchanan and Air America Radio's Rachel Maddow. And Rachel, I think you and I have discussed this on camera and off. That whole topic of what Senator Clinton had said before the vote in New Hampshire is the bull in the china shop for me, and the red flag to the bull and every other kind of bull we could mention. Was that a finessed version of an already very finessed answer in which she was able to remind people that, yes, maybe I'm better prepared for this than anybody else, while at the same time being able to deny that that was anything in the same league, let alone the same ballpark, as a Republican treatment of the Democrats will let you die and only the Republicans can save you in the event of terrorism?
Right. She's accepting the Republican Rovian Bush framework that the way you decide political questions is by scaring people and then see what happens when they do, what they do when they're afraid. And she's answering that question. She's carrying on that framing by putting that dynamic into the race. Barack Obama is calling her on it. I think that was the hottest moment of the entire debate today, just in terms of there being pure friction between the candidates on it, and rightfully so. She absolutely sounds like a Republican when she goes down that line, and then she tries to say that she's doing it in a different way than George W. Bush. But Obama, I think, is winning big points, both stylistically and substantially, by continuing to call her on that, even when he's giving his own speech and she's not there in person. In his own stump speech, which I've seen him give in person, he's going back to that again and again and saying, you don't want somebody who's going to politicize fear this way.
Pat, is he doing it loudly enough, though? Is he not, as we discussed earlier, somewhat pulling that punch? Did he not pull his punch tonight?
I think he did pull his punch, and I also think that this doesn't sound, I mean, maybe I'm not over there in left, I think this is over there in left field. To be honest, I think Hillary Rodham Clinton, her position, the way she stated tonight, is very much her feet are planted in center field here, in the sense that she's saying, look, you want to have somebody who's ready and prepared, because you can have an act of terrorism. We know that. We live in a dangerous world. I think the vast majority of Americans would nod agreement with that. I don't see that as in the same league as playing a fear card right up there hours or days before an election at all.
Pat, but I mean, I did see one real difference between Obama and Edwards and Clinton in this debate. And Democrats seem to like them all. They have a lot of similar policies. They're all calling for change. Okay. But you know what? Hillary Clinton is really saying that the thing that needs to be changed is that Bush needs to be out of the White House and a Democrat needs to be back in there. John Edwards is saying what needs to change is that the moneyed interests and the lobbyists need to be taken out of the political game. Barack Obama is saying what needs to change is that he needs to be the president because he's a personally unifying character. They all want change, but they all say something different needs to be changed. So Democrats are being asked to whether they believe in party, in which case they should vote for Clinton, whether they believe in power, in which case they should vote for Edwards, or whether they believe in personality, in which case they should vote for Obama. And those are all very different appeals, even if they're all saying they want change. If Clinton's position there is the centrist, moderate, or maybe the right-wing position among those, I don't know, that might stand her well in the general election. I don't think it stands her well in winning the Democratic primary.
Well, I think what she did is she moved very much into an aggressive mold up there in New Hampshire because she was under duress and in real danger of losing this nomination. You clearly saw tonight a woman in command, a candidate in command, and she moved back in the presidential mode, going after George W. Bush, because that's very effective with all Democrats. And again, it is and you saw Edwards and Obama basically fall into line as her adjutants, and they sat there in a very chummy setting. And I think, in that sense, she won it because look, they're the ones that got. I don't think they fell into line, though, Pat. Don't you think that Edwards in particular landed some blows against her with the lobbyist stuff, the special interest stuff? I mean, he's coming at her with populist punches here that I would think would resonate with you. Well, look, I mean, I agree with some of the things he's saying, but he's been doing that again and again and again, and he lost ground between Iowa and New Hampshire. And I think he's going to be in a burial ground in South Carolina. He's not going to win this thing. The opposition is Obama to Hillary, and I think you got to say, because she did not lose it tonight, she won it. They didn't score any points I saw. I mean, and look, you can't let her.
She's positioning herself as the general election candidate, but that may not be the best place to be in for the primaries.
That's the question I want to put to both of you in order. First of all, Rachel, then Pat. If you had to choose both, if you think the American people, ask yourself, What do the American people want come next November, this coming November? Do they want a candidate of deliverance, of substantial change in terms of all the ruts we're in, Iraq, going to war with Iran, the difficulty of illegal immigration and solving that problem, the problem of not really having a climate change program, the problems of entitlements and Social Security, all the things we're stuck in the rut on right now? Do they want deliverance from that rut? Or do they want something safe in the middle of the road? Rachel first. What do they want?
I think the fact that you're hearing change is the articulated message on both sides of the partisan aisle means that people don't want somebody who's good at running the existing system. They want somebody who's going to break the system. Now, who's the best candidate at making the case that they're the guy or the gal to do that? I'm not sure we've seen that yet, but I don't think they just want somebody who's good at running the same old system.
Chris, I think they
do you think they want the middle of the road, somewhere in the middle where we're at right now?
I think they want freshness. They want to be rid of Washington. They don't like what they see of Pelosi, Reid, or Bush, Cheney. They want someone outside of Washington. Now, Hillary's problem is she is a centrist in the Democratic Party, but as you talked tonight, Chris, 50% of the men voted for uncommitted, for heaven's sakes. With Obama, I think Clinton Sr. was right. That is a roll of the dice. I'm telling you, you put that guy in a general election against Republicans, and they will tear him to pieces. And so I do think a Republican outsider...
For a theoretical Republican, that's true. But which of the Republican candidates would actually tear Obama to pieces? I mean, it would look like Godzilla and Bambi at this point. And the Republicans are Bambi. They don't have a candidate, Pat.
What you would do is... Go ahead.
Pat, you've lived in Washington your whole life. Your whole life. You've never chosen to leave. And yet you seem to be infatuated, enamored with these mythical candidates who come from outside Washington. We've been electing candidates from outside Washington since Roosevelt, Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy. Everybody comes from outside Washington. Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush. Why is that somehow seen as the man on the white horse? That there's salvation from outside the outskirts of the city?
Chris,
where do you get this romance from?
Well, look, I'm an analyst here. You listed everybody from outside Washington.
Where's the romance? Why do you believe in this outside guy?
Well, the one guy I do believe in was Ronald Reagan from outside, and it worked. He won the Cold War, but I'm saying this year an outside Washington candidate has a far better chance than a Washington insider, Chris, and you've been in politics long enough to know that yourself.
I think a Washington outsider at this point could be Ronald Reagan, it could be George Bush, it could be Bill Clinton, it could be anybody from history. Chris is right in picking those guys out. The question is whether or not, not whether somebody's been in Washington, but whether they're going to break Washington when they get there, how radical they can be.
Rachel, Pat, thanks.
The reason I'm driven to this, okay, go ahead. I'm just driven. When I saw Mitt Romney out there in Michigan tonight, railing against Washington like he's some Festus Haggis frontiersman, I thought this is the most establishment guy in the world, railing against his fellow establishmentarianism.
And by the way, you voted for my dad, right?
I don't buy the act.
The country doesn't know that, Chris. To the country, he's going to be brand new.
I know. Go ahead.
But as you and we'll close out this segment, I actually get the last word out of these four people. How about that? If you're going to think that a theoretical Republican is going to just cut through Barack Obama, a theoretical Democrat is going to make sure everybody knows that Mitt Romney calling for change and being the outsider is a second-generation politician, and his father and mother both ran for the Senate. All right. Thank you, Rachel Maddow. Thank you, Pat Buchanan.
His father was a lobbyist.
That's right. Oh, that again. Mitt Romney's victory tonight means there's really no true Republican frontrunner. When we return, we'll look at how that race is going.